Even knowing nothing about music theory and copying exactly what someone does in person or on video is a perfectly fine way to start playing music. Play music the way you want to play music. Do you have that friend who just tells you that you're just bad at music if you don't learn by ear, even though you know how to read music like a crazy person? Or do you find that you're just watching YouTube tutorials all the time and can crush, but the moment someone puts sheet music in front of you, it's like your kryptonite and you just crumble up and just lose all your powers? Well, that's because music really has 3 different ways to access it. You have sight reading, you have ear training, and you have by rote. I want to define what these are. And then I want to also talk about best practices and how we can become more well-rounded musicians and more successful musicians by being aware of the advantages and disadvantages. And so let's get into first defining them and then go from there. The first is going to be sight reading. Sight reading is any form of using our eyeballs to learn notes, pieces, and patterns. This could use traditional sheet music, but it also could use lead sheets, chord charts, tabs, and even short form personal notes, just shorthand for yourself. In reality, anytime you're using your eyes to decipher symbols, you are sight reading. Ear training is kind of exactly what it sounds like. You're training your ears to be able to discern all sorts of specific details in music. Everyone does this to some extent, but you can really enhance this with special practice so that you can find specific notes, you can find specific chords, all sorts of things just from your ears. An important distinction to be brought to this is there's actually 2 major traditions of ear training. There is perfect pitch and relative pitch. I don't really want to dive into that for now, but I do think that is a worthy discussion to have at some point. So comment below if you would like to hear about that. Now let's get into rote. Rote is probably the one that you will find the least mention of online, and that is because it's so obvious. And this is learning music by watching. You're just watching what someone else does and copying it verbatim. You don't need to know anything to learn by rote. All you have to do is watch and copy. This could be Suzuki-style group classes, it could be Kinder music, it could be YouTube tutorials, and so much more. As you probably have already surmised, these all have overlap, and any musician worth anything is going to have done a little bit of all 3. But I find in my own experience that most musicians double down on one method as their primary method. We all know the archetype. The super amazing classical musician that does not know how to improvise or play by ear. The incredible pop musician that can instantly identify, probably has perfect pitch, any song by ear, but the moment you put a sheet of music in front of them, they just crumble. And finally, the enormously impressive, I don't know why I'm losing adjectives right now, can't think of any, but this guitarist that shreds like insanity and has the most amazing technique ever, but actually can't learn songs by ear or by music. They just literally learn it by watching YouTube tutorial. If you want any advanced discussion on the pros and cons of each access point and what they actually give you, but also what their disadvantages are, I totally have no problem do that. Comment below. But right now, I just want to address every individual step, beginner, intermediate, advanced, what you should think about doing no matter where you are. So for the beginner, I want to say this. And when I'm talking beginner, I'm talking like just the first couple years of playing. Don't let anyone tell you that there's a right way to do the beginning part of learning music. In reality, every single method of learning music is super valid, and at the end result, playing the piece, if you do a good job playing the piece, you're doing the right thing. So don't let anybody tell you, oh, you have to learn how to read music. Oh, you have to learn how to ear train. Oh, copy exactly what I'm doing. I'm definitely right. Just don't let them bully you around like that. I will say there is one category that I do want to address, which is there is a slight benefit for sure for the very young, somewhere between like 5 and 12 years of age, for them to start with sight reading. And I think this has two benefits. The first is sight reading is something very akin to regular reading and language development. And there's a ton of research that talk about how our brains have a much easier time of adapting to a new language framework when we're younger. And that can even prepare us for later in life being more adept at being able to do that. So adept, not adapt, whatever. Language is fun. But learning to read music at a young age is a huge asset and very arguably is easier at a younger age. So that is the one method I would give a slight advantage to, but ultimately you start off by ear, just stick with ear. Don't worry about it. For the intermediate, you can play full songs, you feel pretty comfortable on your instrument. I'd say generally about 2 years in. I would say it's either time to double down on your method of choice or to start broadening out. I think both are valid. And what you really want to do is just decide, is the efficiency of knowing one way of doing things really helping you out? Are you time crunched? Do you have enough time to spread out? Because I would say if you don't, then just keep working the same way you're already working. If you're reading, just keep getting better at reading. If you're learning by ear, just keep getting better at ear. Again, there's no wrong answers. However, this is the time I think ear training might be the best way to go. And here's why. If you started with sight reading, you're at a general competence level. You can play songs. You can enjoy yourself. But you're going to start to have friends and they're going to be like, hey, come play with me. Hey, let's go do jam. And what you're going to find is you're going to have a much harder time if access point sight reading is the main way that you get into music. What you're going to want to do at that point is get a little familiar with ear training, and that can really help you with playing along with other people and just enjoying that back and forth. One more also quick note. If you have only been using rote to get to intermediate level, I would 100% say you should definitely look into sight reading and ear training and potentially find some resource to help you beyond yourself. This is a great time to either find a teacher or find a set of YouTube videos about such topics and really start expanding your knowledge behind just copying. Again, you can be very successful for a very long time just copying, but I do think this is the time to branch out from just being rote. For the advanced, and this would be people who can play most, if not all of what they want to, they play professionally or at whatever level that they sought to get to, I would say 5 to infinite years of playing. My hot take is you should actively prioritize what you are worst at. So if you are a super ear trainer and you just know how to listen to anything and find out what it is, you should learn how to read, and vice versa. And especially if you've just been doing rote, please, please, please go get yourself some sight reading and ear training. And you might go, wait, but you've been lacking talking about rote as something people should develop. Well, it's something that naturally develops as you do sight reading and ear training, but I would actually argue you do have a point. If you have not tried transcribing and watching what someone else plays and then try to play what they're playing, you are doing yourself a disservice, and you should try to mess around with that specifically. Your normal access point is not going to go anywhere if you take a leave of absence and start working on something else. If anything, you're just going to broaden your horizons and allow yourself more ability to do the thing you truly love. All the methods help us to become more musical and better at it. They really don't operate entirely independently. The better you are at sight reading, the easier it is to visualize the things that you are hearing. The better you are at ear training, it's easier to then apply what you see on the page to how it's supposed to sound. The better you are at copying what great masters on their instruments do, the easier it is to apply that when you don't have that framework to begin with on, say, a brand new piece you've never seen someone play before. I will finish with this. If you are starting out, don't let anyone shame you into switching music access points midstream. Even knowing nothing about music theory and copying exactly what someone does in person or on video is a perfectly fine way to start playing music. Play music the way you want to play music. And then as you get better, I think the accountability and the amount you owe it to yourself to expand your horizons increases. However, on the flip side, if you are reasonably advanced, don't let your pride talk you out of doing something that you are not very good at naturally and that is hard for you. You will be better off for it. This has been Robert Monroe. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this. Leave a comment, a like, a follow, and I will catch you guys later. Thanks.